Anyway, thank you so much for coming. This is our last one for the year. This is LiveRead number 25, I believe. So, yay for us. For those who haven't been here before, welcome. We are here tonight to celebrate 2 scripts that were selected from the competition, the most recent competition. Those scripts were written by John and Scott, who are in the house. There's John. Congratulations, and Scott. Both John and Scott made it in from Arizona just to be here tonight, so it's going to be really even harder when we tell them that their script sucks. So, but never mind. We'll do our best. No, but we also, with LiveRead, we read 2 scripts with amazing actors, but we also promise an industry insider to come and not only give feedback on the scripts, but also give sort of an insight into her aspect of the industry. And we have Kit here tonight. There's Kit. Thank you, Kit, so much for coming. So Kit is the creator and showrunner of Sorry for Your Loss on Facebook Watch, starring Elizabeth Olsen, who is one of my personal favourite actors. So all of the questions are going to be, so what's she like, when we do the Q&A later on. So anyway, what happens is, once I stop crapping on, the actors are going to come up and we're going to read John's script first, which is Quash, single. And then once they're finished, John, Kit and I will come on stage and Kit and I will give our thoughts to John, and then I'll open it up to you guys. So then once we've done the first one, then we do the second one, we do Scott's, and then after that, Scott leaves the stage, and then Kit and I will do a quick Q&A. I'll ask her searing personal questions, and then you guys can ask her whatever you want, within reason, and then we'll get out of here. So let's get going with Quash, which is a TV pilot.
Yes.
First act of a TV pilot. Actors, get on, and thank you again.
We are reading Quash, written by John McCarney. Teaser, fade in, interior apartment night. John O'Connell, 64, stares forward, numb. A chow mein noodle hangs from his scraggly gray beard that matches his long hair. He wears only boxer shorts and sits on a sofa bed in a tiny studio apartment. The wrinkles near his eyes squint down at the ones on his body. The dingy, peeling walls stare back at John. They appear to have been created about the same time he was. Muffled squabbles echo through the walls. A tiny television sits on a cardboard box and flickers to an infomercial. A small digital clock sits on top of the TV and displays 1:13 a.m. John chugs straight from a half-empty Smirnoff vodka bottle. He glances over to a Formica table. It has a large folder of papers. He picks it up. It says, LA County New Employee Orientation. He flips through it, then tosses it. It lands on the table on top of court papers. The words, custody denied, stamped in red, stare up at him. On the table is a new ID card on a lanyard that has his name and the title, LA County Building Inspector Aide. Next to his ID is a picture of Ryan O'Connell, 13, and Jennifer O'Connell, 13, and a woman at least 10 years younger than John. She's skinny, red hair, with hollow eyes. John tears the picture and removes the lady and throws her photo on the floor. He stares at the piece with the kids. He picks up a .357 Magnum caliber handgun from the table. A box of bullets sits next to the gun, and a half-eaten Panda Express container. John looks back over at Jennifer in the photo. He slips a bullet in the chamber. He spins the cylinder, and it echoes like a bouncing ball on a roulette wheel. He smiles at the picture. He cocks the gun.
Take care of your brother.
He puts the gun to his temple. He grimaces as the hammer of the pistol clicks down on an empty chamber. John sways back and forth. He is so drunk. He struggles to put the second bullet in the chamber. He stares at Ryan in the photo.
You listen to your sister.
He puts the gun to his head and quickly pulls the trigger. Nothing but the click of the hammer on an empty chamber. John stumbles as he steps back. He gazes down to the torn photo of the woman on the floor. He grinds on it with his foot like he extinguishes a cigarette. He loads up the remaining chambers with bullets. He stares at the photo of his kids. He turns it face down. John shuts off the TV. The room is dark, except for light shining in from a street light. He slumps down on the sofa. The silhouette of John is visible against the window. He sticks the gun into his mouth. John clicks back the hammer. End of teaser. Act 1. Interior John's apartment, morning. A cell phone vibrates next to an open hand on the dingy sofa. The phone vibrates several times. Silence. The hand doesn't move. The half-eaten food in the Panda Express container sits next to the open box of bullets. The phone vibrates again. The hand slowly moves. John, startled, jumps up. The gun tumbles to the floor. The gun fires, and the bullet shatters the TV. He stares at the clock that falls and illuminates 6:45 a.m.
Shit.
John looks at the screen on the phone. It displays Mo. He clears his throat, answers the phone.
Just leaving.
Interior Maureen's house, kitchen, day. A statuesque woman, Maureen O'Connell Stone, Mo, 54, in a plush robe, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She sits at a breakfast nook in an elegant kitchen. Yeah, right, get up. Intercut phone conversation between John and Mo.
Going out the door.
There's awkward silence. Mo is skeptical. FaceTime me. I want to see how the clothes look.
I'm late, and thanks. I'll pay you back with my first check.
Listen. Mo covers the phone. She doesn't want to cry. She continues. You gave the judge no choice. John gazes around the apartment as if he's suddenly aware of the conditions he lives in. He glances over at the new employee packet and his name tag.
I
Don't go by the foster home again. They both just hold their phones. A very long silence.
I gotta go, sis.
John hangs up. He stares at the gun and the bullets. He rubs his hand through his hair as if to make sure his head is screwed on tight. He looks out the window at the courtyard and, relieved no one seems to have noticed the sound of the gun discharging. John rushes into the bathroom, and the torrent of a long piss echoes through the tiny apartment. The sound of a shower cascades, and then the handles squeak off. Naked, John rushes out of the bathroom, furiously brushing his teeth. He throws the toothbrush on the sofa. He rushes over to a large Walmart bag. Still naked, he bypasses underwear and he puts on his new pants and a shirt. He grabs a new clip-on tie and snaps it on. He puts on his dirty socks and slips new shoes over them. John grabs his ID. He rushes to the door but suddenly stops. He turns around. He goes over to the Formica table and stares at the upside-down photo of his kids. He pauses. He flips it back over and stares at it. John rushes out the door. Exterior Industry Sheriff Station, La Puente, California, day. Several people wait in the sheriff's station parking lot. A patrol car is in front and behind a Public Works government logo van. Impatient, 3 civilians get in the van. A middle-aged, strong-looking white guy, Tim Groden, 50, stands next to Lieutenant Strickland, 40, who looks like he was sewn into his police uniform at birth.
Well, where is he?
Give him a few minutes. It's his first day.
First day? You giving us a newbie?
I'm giving you a qualified building inspector aide. Not gonna waste an experienced inspector just to drive you to gang locations.
Lieutenant gets up close to Tim.
I know you don't like this partnership, but this place is a fucking war zone. The board approved it, we got the funding, you're obligated.
We're obligated only for the rest of the fiscal year. What's that, 3 months?
A city bus pulls up at the curb in the distance. John steps off and starts jogging towards them.
There he is.
That old fart? Fuck me.
Prefer you do that yourself.
What the fuck you pulling, Tim?
He tested the highest. We can't age discriminate. Vietnam vet priority.
You sure it wasn't World War II?
The lieutenant squints out at John.
He sure the hell don't look bilingual. Looks like some white-ass farmer from Nebraska.
Past verbal and written. He can legally translate.
And what happens if the funding's not extended?
Tim gazes out at John. He makes a throat-cutting sign. John, out of breath, finally reaches them.
Sorry, didn't know which bus.
Don't you have a car?
John looks around. He catches the eye of one of the people in the van, Erica Sanchez, 29, who looks like an Aztecan princess, stares out a window, waits for his answer.
No.
Doesn't matter. He drives the van.
The lieutenant gets up in John's face.
You know what's expected of you?
Well, I was told this was a new thing. Nuisance abatement team? So there was no manual or anything written up yet, right?
So he doesn't even know what to do.
None of us do, yet.
Tim puts his arm on John's shoulder. He looks up at the 3 civilians in the van.
Just take them to the locations the sheriff wants for now, and cite for obvious building code violations. Think you can do that?
What's on that paper?
John looks at Tim as he looks at the paper.
Well, since I didn't have anything to go by, I looked up nuisance abatement in the dictionary, to have an idea of what to do.
Dictionary.
John notices that the people in the van are smiling at him, having a hard time not laughing out loud. He plows forward.
It says a nuisance is a person or a thing that causes a problem.
No shit. And abatement?
Abatement, to lessen in degree or to eliminate, to quash.
Say that last one again.
To quash.
The lieutenant grabs the paper out of John's hand. He tears up the paper and stuffs it into Tim's chest. Tim grabs it.
He understands us better than you. All right, let's go quash some knuckleheads.
The lieutenant chuckles and his head bobs up and down.
Quash. Sounds something like you do to a damn cockroach.
John looks back up at the 3 people in the van. Tim nods to John as he and the lieutenant walk away. The lieutenant smiles and yells over his shoulder.
All right, keep going. You got places to quash.
Interior van, street, traveling, day. The van slowly follows a sheriff patrol car down a street. Modest housing, graffiti scrawled across every flat surface. Trash litters the street, and cannibalized wrecked cars punctuate a few weed-covered yards. John drives and stares straight ahead. Benny Watson, 28, African-American, sits in the far back. He sings the lyrics to some country western song.
On a plane.
Apple earbuds in his ears. A badge that has his name above Health Department hangs around his neck. Alan Cheng, 25, Asian American, effeminate, checks his fantasy football team on his phone with manicured painted nails. He wears a custom sewn polo shirt, has his name and Vector Control scrawled on it, sits behind John. Erica rides shotgun and argues on the phone.
Why can't you do it?
She looks over at John. She reaches out to his neck. John moves away. She peeks up from her phone.
No, I'm not talking to you.
She yells back into the phone. Frustrated, she reaches over to John's shirt and pulls a price tag off of it. She holds it up in front of him, returns to the call.
No, you do it. I can't do everything.
Then he pulls the earbuds out of his ears.
Sounds like he's pissing off Mamacita. Again.
John peeks at Benny in the rearview mirror. Benny makes eye contact.
They get used to it, Gramps. Let's set some rules. All right. What we say in this van stays in this van. I can say whatever the fuck we want to each other, right? Goes no further. Comprende?
I don't know. Be nice, Benny.
I don't think Gramps cares.
Erica keeps arguing on the phone.
Oh my God.
What the fuck? There's some old white dude doing out here. Well, he's got a sense of humor, right? Gramps.
Benny preys on the fact that John doesn't respond.
You know, it's like your department don't want to waste a real inspector. I'm just saying.
That's cool, Benny. Leave the nice man alone.
Hey, you think every man is nice. Look, we out here in this shit, okay? And they giving us some old throwaway. And you know, this is fucking bullshit.
Such language.
Erica finishes her call, pissed off.
Fine, I'll take care of it. Like always.
Erica is relieved to be off the phone. She exhales.
What are you guys blabbing about?
Homegirl, back me up. Mr. Rosetta Stone here in the barrio? Hell no.
Then he moves up closer to John.
Out here, with your book-learned Spanish don't mean shit. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? It ain't gonna cut it, man.
John slams the van in park. The patrol cars stop. John turns and throttles Benny in perfect Spanish.
Look, asshole. I am here for one reason, and it is not to listen to your shit. So shut the fuck up or I'm gonna... I'm gonna to the biblioteca and get every book they have and shove them up your ass.
Silence in the van.
Damn, fuck. Sounds like a midget Mexican crawled up your ass.
Erica starts to laugh.
Nat Van, do you copy?
Erica grabs the mic, smiles at John and Benny.
10-4, we're good. New guy had to teach Benny some Spanish.
The caravan moves forward as Erica chuckles. John stares with a scowl at Benny. Benny stares back. Benny looks out the window and chuckles. John smiles. Benny smiles. Erica seems confused as she studies John's face as he drives forward. Her phone vibrates again. She throws it in her purse. Exterior street, La Puente residential area, day. The caravan turns down a street and pulls over. Interior patrol car, street, day. 2 officers, Carlos Aguilar, 35, and his partner, Daniel Fontana, 40, stare at a house down the street. Aguilar looks back at the Nat van in his rearview mirror. He picks up the mic.
Nat team stand by.
Copy.
Fontana types into the keyboard in the patrol car.
Shows a no bail warrant for Luis Salazar. Salazar?
Aguilar is frustrated with Fontana.
That's why we're here, Danny boy.
He points back to the van.
That's what this shit's all about. They can go where we can't.
And do what?
Interior van, street, parked, day. The van is very quiet as they all stare at the patrol car in front of them. John glances over at Erica. Her badge says zoning enforcement. John finally breaks the silence.
So you guys don't usually go out with the deputies?
Erica's still hot over the phone conversation, so she looks away and ignores John. Alan looks at his phone.
No. Us 3 sometimes go together, but it can be so scary.
You're all different agencies?
Different as night to day. Straight to gay. Picasso to Monet.
John stares around at the police cars and then back at his team.
So the sheriff sold the idea that they can protect you guys in your inspections while they get intel on the properties you go to.
Ding, ding, ding. You got it, Gramps. You know what sucks is they pick the properties. It's not even our cases.
John leans over and notices Erica's wet eyes.
Was that your boyfriend?
What?
On the phone.
That was her, fiance.
Fiance? You guys seem pretty heated.
Right.
Shut up, Benny.
Alan studies his fantasy football stats on his phone. He takes a peek up but stays out of the conversation.
Patriots or Bears defense?
Patriots. Not my place, but that didn't sound like an I do tone.
Ooh, dagger. You tell her, Gramps.
Erica stares at Alan with laser focus. Alan throws up his hands, turns away. Erica gives John a hard chola glare.
You're right. Not your place.
John and Erica study each other. They are distracted by officers Aguilar and Fontana as they walk back to the van. Aguilar comes up to John's window and Fontana to Erica's. Exterior, interior, Nat van parked, day.
So the house up there with the fence, that's our target.
Target?
Aguilar is upset that John interrupted him.
Listen, we have no bail warrant on a banker, Luis Salazar. That's his mom's house. Intel says that's where he's staying.
As long as he stays in the house, we can't do anything. He's not on probation, so no conditions.
Conditions?
Search conditions. We can't snag him unless he's on the street.
What's he wanted for?
Aguilar and Fontana stare at each other through the van.
Drive-by shooting.
He shot up my car. All right, pay attention. Find a violation, then do a door knock. See if he follows his mom out. Then we'll grab his ass.
There's a 6-foot fence around his house. I can't see any violations from the street.
Aguilar slams his hand on the door.
I'll go.
Everyone turns to her.
A fence over 42 inches in the front yard is a zoning violation.
Fontana opens Erica's door. She gets out. John does too.
Thought you couldn't do anything.
I'm going with her to translate.
Command, R20 is 432 Calma Street, possible 246 suspect, requesting backup for possible transport.
Exterior Calma Street, walking, day. John and Erica walk toward the house. She is petite, and John towers over her. The deputies trail, keeping out of sight. John stares at the house, nervous. Erica surprises him.
We're going to counseling.
Huh?
My fiance, we're working on it.
John stares at the house. He speaks to Erica, but is focused on the house. He blurts out words without really thinking.
If you're going to a counselor before you're married, you'll be going to a divorce lawyer after you're married.
Erica stops in her tracks. She's livid and yells in Spanish.
Screw you, old man. What do you know? I can see your finger don't have a wedding ring anymore. So who are you to give advice?
John stares down at his tan, wrinkled hands. White skin shows on his left ring finger where his wedding ring used to be.
Wait. If you speak Spanish, what?
Oh my God.
Up on the other side of the street, a 30-something Hispanic man sits on the curb. He chugs on a large 40-ounce Mickey's beer bottle. He holds a .45 revolver. A 3-year-old boy sits on his lap. Down the street,
Yo, we don't need this right now.
John starts to walk toward the man. Erica reluctantly follows, but then stops in the middle of the street.
Wait, let them handle it.
She frantically waves to the officers. John doesn't hesitate. He stops as the drunk man, Jesus, waves the gun at John, himself, and then to the head of the child. John engages him in Spanish.
Hey, take it easy.
The Hispanic man sways back and forth, eyes half closed, in Spanish.
What's your name?
The man seems confused as John speaks Spanish.
Jesus.
Down the street, Aguilar scrambles to his car and grabs the radio mic, stops, and then yells back to the van.
What's his name?
Benny opens the window, shrugs his shoulder.
The old guy, what's his name?
I don't know. I called him Gramps.
Gramps? You weren't properly introduced. Great.
Aguilar and Fontana are poised behind their patrol car doors. Aguilar grabs the radio and clicks it to speaker.
Gramps! Back off! We got it!
John pays them no attention. He engages the man. Erica stays where she is, in Spanish.
Hey, who's the boy?
My son Enrique. How the fuck you speak Spanish?
Command, need backup at the 246 suspect location now?
John sits down next to the man. Erica steps back.
What the hell is he doing?
Wall of sirens. Benny and Alan peek out the van window. John and Jesus continue their conversation in Spanish.
I know what you're feeling.
Fuck you, Edo. You know nothing.
Jesus tearfully rambles on about a woman. Erica listens. John gets more emotional, breathes heavy, then erupts in Spanish.
She left. Right? Huh? She left, huh? So did my wife.
The man stops talking and stares at John. Erica is stunned. John, with welled-up eyes, spills his heart out to the man in Spanish.
With my best friend. Got into all kinds of bad shit. I let my kids get in harm's way. I lost them.
Broken, John gets eye to eye with Jesus. He pauses in Spanish.
You don't want to lose Enrique, do you?
Jesus is stunned. Erica studies John. Loudspeaker blares, helicopters, warp, and patrol cars screech to a halt. Jesus studies John. He slowly hands him Enrique and cries as he lets his gun hand fall to his side. John moves away, cradling Enrique in his arms. He hears the click of the .45 revolver being cocked and the drunk voice of Jesus in Spanish.
Love you, my son.
John spins around. Before he can do anything, Jesus puts the gun to his own temple and blows his head off. End of Act 1.
How about you go so I get the lay of the land?
Okay.
I want to get the format.
Okay, sure. Well, I have a little bit of advantage because I've already read it. But what I like is I read it and then I hear it and different things emerge. Because for me, my first note was going to be there's so much scene description at the beginning. Like when you are sitting down to read a new script and it's a page and a half of no dialogue, you groan when you're reading a lot of scripts. But you managed to make it pretty compelling. With the whole suicide thing, or a suicide attempt, which I found, you sort of walk that line, but it's close. Mm-hmm. So, it could certainly be a little less detail oriented, but hearing it, it didn't sound as horrendous as I thought it may when I was reading it. Yeah, and then, I mean, there are some, just a little note first before the big, because I don't have a whole bunch because it's only 19 pages, and my focus here, by the way, is I'm a big believer in connecting the audience with the characters and feeling something, rather than just, because a lot of the scripts I read worry more about world than they do about people.
Yeah.
And you didn't do that. You know, we're all about John in this. So, but then there were just there were lines like, for example, in the van, when Erica was arguing with her boyfriend, you kept inserting a line of scene description where it was like, she's back on the phone, when I think we probably didn't need it.
Okay.
Because we knew she was on the phone. Right. So it could have kind of, and it would have made things move just a little faster, where it's like, there's this weird conversation going on between Benny and John and all that, and then meanwhile every now and again she's chirping in with something, and she didn't really say much either, which I felt was a bit of an opportunity lost to show us a little bit more about Erica, because you really are trying to introduce everybody in this thing.
Right.
And so that conversation I thought was really the key to who she was, and she was really not doing much, as much as she could in that moment. And so if you ditch the scene description and just cut back to her every now and again and she's yelling at him, we would learn a lot more about her in a very short space of time, which would be awesome. I'm intrigued to know what's going on, because I haven't seen anything set in this world. It was like a random world. I was trying to catch up in a good way. I was like, oh, it sort of makes sense that the police would do this. But then I was like, can't they just go into someone's house if they have a warrant? But then I guess you sort of explained it, so I'm trusting you because you come from that. So yeah, and then, I mean, obviously the juxtaposition between the suicide and the suicide, I get what you're doing there, and I get to use the word juxtaposition, so, you know, makes me sound smart. But the, yeah, so I really, if it was me, I would trim some of the early suicide-y stuff. I don't think we need everything explained. Like, really obviously, like the ripping the thing, and it could be a little more subtly handled, so we don't need to be 100% sure why he's wanting to kill himself right then, because he explains it to Jesus later on. You know, he says, she left me, but that's not really shocking, or that we kind of knew that already. So it might be worthwhile having a dude in the opening scene wanting to kill himself, even though he's got a building inspector thing, and we're like, what is this? And then it's paid off in and it's all within the first act. I mean, you're only 19 pages in. So that would be just to sort of, you know, don't lead us too much. Let us wonder a little bit and figure it out. Yeah, because you do pay it off, and there's a great, interesting cast of characters, and yeah, I would just think about it from in terms of when they're in that van. That's when we're meeting them all. What do we need to know about them in the shortest space of time, and how can we make them all like really, you know, pop out? Like there were a couple of references that James's character was checking his fantasy phone. He did that like 3 times. We cut back, so we got that the first time. So you don't need it. You know, we know what he's doing, so you can use that space to show us something else about it. You know? So that's all I got.
Cool. Well, I was very taken by these pages. I found them so visceral and visual. I felt like I was in really good hands, and yes, it's a world that I don't know either, but I felt like I was being, I was guided through with a lot of confidence, and I really appreciated the IV drip of information. I really appreciated not, you know, getting a whole bunch of exposition shoved down my throat all at once. I really trust you as the writer to kind of guide me through this world. And to that point, I really respond to the visuals and the stakes of the first scene. It's interesting as the camera pans over his possessions. I felt like, yes, in a short amount of time, I was really able to like put those breadcrumbs, follow his breadcrumbs, and kind of get a lot about his life. And I just want to throw out there, I'm not sure you need that in that teaser. If I just get the chow mein, the gun, even just that building inspector badge, when that teaser ends, I have so many questions. Who is this guy? Why would he do this? What's going to happen next? This is the first 2 minutes of the pilot. What's the other 50 minutes going to be? Whereas I felt, for me, especially the picture, then I think it's 2 lines of dialogue. For me, I felt like I was being spoon-fed a little bit, and I'm so fine to find that stuff out 30 pages in, 50 pages in, I mean, I'd point to, I'm sure this is an example people are familiar with, Mad Men. We don't find out Don Draper has a family until the last page of that pilot, right? And we don't need that yet. And, you know, we have him at a bar, he's smoking, he's talking to this woman. I'm not even sure if you know he's an advertising exec yet, but like, I think you have that, and again, these are two, your pilot and the pilot in Mad Men are very different beasts, but I would say what they have in common is you have this really powerful, visual, visceral introduction to a protagonist, and you don't need a lot more. So I would say, I definitely say that about the teaser, but for me it was very effective. And then going into the world of it, I would say the same thing with the phone call. I mean, if obviously take what serves, leave what doesn't, but if you indeed do decide to...
he's going to do everything.
Don't. Truly don't. Do whatever you want. I mean,
sorry.
No, you're fine. But I would say, again, I only need like a breadcrumb from that conversation.
Okay.
I think you can really trust, like, especially going off of that, like, gut punch of that teaser. We just want one breadcrumb at a time, one IV drip at a time. You really can just give us a little bit. We don't have, I personally don't need all of it.
Okay.
Going into, I had some Erica questions going into that car scene. First of all, I did want to know why she would have that phone call in front of those colleagues. I mean, a few things, let's get into it. I think if you were going, and this happened twice in the script, but I'll focus on the Erica section in the car. If you're going to have a character speaking, I think you always need to have what the dialogue is versus, like you can maybe have like a crowd ad-lib, like greetings as someone enters a door, but if it's going to be dialogue we're hearing, you really are going to want to do that. And I think something cool would be to have that dual dialogue running through. That said, I did wonder why she would have that conversation with her boyfriend when she could have texted him those things, or had that conversation not in a closed space in front of her colleagues. And if indeed, she needs to address this thing with her significant other immediately, and she's texting him, her colleagues can still know her. And this isn't me pitching, but like, I think her colleagues can still know her well enough to know she's texting her boyfriend. Is she doing that thing where she's like tilting her head so that the tears don't actually spill down her face? I think there's a way of her having that conversation, having that connection with her significant other in a way that's where she's trying to be private, but it still is public. So I think just think about the emotional logic there, how she would, because if they are really in dire straits as a couple, I think she would want to address it immediately. But I did wonder about why she would have that conversation in front of, her not very sympathetic or supportive colleagues. So I just examined the emotional logic there. There were a couple of references in stage directions to her that were culturally specific. Like her looking like an Aztec princess and her the chola stare. And I think that's worth being mindful of too. I actually didn't I think two things. First of all, I didn't quite know what either meant, and I think those references can be sensitive and specific. I didn't think you needed them, so I think it's just worth taking a pass at that, or a look at those and seeing what you really need to communicate about that character.
Okay.
And so blah blah blah. I think I'm just going in order. I thought I just loved being in the car with these people. By the way, I loved being outside the car with and again, I didn't have the advantage of reading it ahead of time, so I don't have everyone's names memorized, but I liked the interaction out of the car, in the car. I really like being with these humans. I find them funny and weird and interesting. And Erica, woman, I loved, to the point of getting to know the characters, I love when she just pulls his tag off, his brand new tag off. I think that says so much about her. And so that was just, talk about getting to know a character. I'm like giving everybody something that like small and slight for me. Because by the way, 9 out of 10 people don't do that. Like I think there's absolutely a character in that car that would just like stare at the tag the entire time and never say a word. There's someone that pointed out, and like it says so much about who you are. It's just a very specific move. I really, like, it made me love her, honestly. It made me love that character, and I love their interactions. I thought they were all really prickly, but there was such camaraderie and familiarity. I think you just created a really wonderful dynamic with all of them. And then let me jump to the end. I think this probably is my largest note. I feel like we really skip over John solving this problem. We don't get to hear him really negotiate and interact with. Is it Enrique is who he's talking? Enrique is Jesus and Enrique.
Yes.
Okay. So Jesus, I think that you want to spend time and real estate on that moment, because this is the moment I think where we're really going to get to know him and really going to get to see, I would say, the magic of this character. And right now I feel shortchanged. I don't see the emotional intelligence, the negotiation. I only see the highlights reel, right? And I feel strongly that we need to really be in it with these characters and really watch this this bomb get diffused. It's something most people could not do, is literally talk a man down from a ledge, or we think he's going to be talked down from the ledge. And I don't envy you the task, because it's a very, it's sort of like the open heart surgery of writing, right? It's a very complicated thing to write. I would say an example I'd point you to, I thought it was done very effectively, was in the pilot episode of, I believe it's BBC, The Bodyguard, the television series The Bodyguard. There is, without spoiling it for people, there is a scene in which, I would say that there's a scene that bears a lot of similarity. It's very early on it's probably the first 15 minutes. And they spend real estate there. They really spend time. We go through like the dance between these two people. So I'd say it's hard as hell. Like I do not envy you this task, but I really think you're gonna have to spend real time. And I think in that time, I'm not sure John is going to have to tell his whole backstory. I mean, like, we could get to that point, because certainly, and again, this is not my field of expertise, but from the little I know that identifying details about yourself, like finding personal connections and bonds, can sometimes ground somebody who is unstable, and in that space. And so I do think there might be an opportunity when all else fails to really get to Jesus in this very personal, no, you don't understand, not just like some random guy off the street. Like, I really, really know. And then we put, we get another breadcrumb. We realize, oh, that's, would just get crass. That's why he had like a gun down his throat and on page 1.5. But I do think we are going to learn so much about this character and really fall in love with this character through the minutia of this scene, and I just don't want shortchanged at all. So I think you need all that dialogue, and I think you really want to spend some solid real estate there. Did I just go on way too long?
No.
Is that
Great.
okay?
Great.
That's
Great.
But no, I'm in. I'm really excited to spend more time. I want to know what happens next.
How would you do that structurally? If you're doing how long is this going to be?
It's a TV pilot, so it's 60 pages. But processing all this stuff in by what you're saying there, I could see some ideas of what already to go ahead and do.
Okay, cool.
The real estate that I need at the end, I can take from the beginning, right there and stuff. And hearing the actors, which I got to see, you guys are it's wonderful to hear that the way you guys did that. It was just,
So you would have sort of by the end of we would end that if you're going to do act breaks, which nowadays are.
But that's a question too. Do you see this as a network pilot, or do you see this more cable streaming?
I see it more HBO.
They don't do act breaks.
Yeah, you don't.
So you don't. I mean, yeah, you don't.
I can just go write a 60-page out.
Yeah. Really, act breaks are for commercials. So you'd be writing towards if this is for NBC, which it does not seem like it is for. Then you would need an act break. But no, if you're doing cable streaming where there are no commercials, or the commercials will get put in later, you can do whatever you want. But I would say I wouldn't know structurally. But how is this? Because this is cable. This is an HBO. This is not a traditional network pilot. It's not following the same rubric, and so I would have to see the pilot in totality to say, oh, this stuff feels like it could get punted to episode 2, and you want to use your real estate here to really focus on this character and the magic in him versus maybe some secondary character stuff, or maybe more stuff with his family. Oh, this feels like not necessary to the pilot. I think of a cable streaming pilot as the first chapter in a novel, versus, you know, a typical network procedural. You're really getting like the template for what the show's going to be. And like, I think certainly you want to feel the DNA of the show in a pilot, no matter where it is. But especially with something that's going to be serialized versus episodic, which this feels like. It feels like there is certainly a workplace component, and we're getting idea, like, you know, we'll you know, but it doesn't feel like every episode's going to be exactly the same, like a case of the week or a murder of the week or whatever of the week. So so in that respect, I think you just really want to focus on setting up the world rather than setting up the template. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I you know, the teaser and the act structure, I just kind of looked at it as far as different pilots and different samples, like, you know, Breaking Bad. It's exactly how I have to. So
Which, by the way, like, you know, AMC would be potentially a very cool home for this. You can keep them in. It's not. I don't think anyone would like recoil at like act breaks in a cable pilot. I just tend to think of them these days. Really, when I see act breaks, I think network.
Okay.
But also, I think what I was trying to get at too is that in some ways, it sounds like what you're saying is really the meat of this episode is that interaction, like with Jesus and John.
If that was,
it's not.
Yeah, that was 10 minutes, and you just like don't, you know, there's this plot that doesn't get to happen, or there's maybe secondary characters that don't get as much meat this episode. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, have you seen The Bodyguard? Or
yeah, I have seen and I know the scene you're talking about is in the train with the girl, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that talking down, and it's this kind of emotion going back and forth, and which way it's going to go ahead and go,
right?
And it makes you fall in love with the guy.
Yeah.
Right. And yet, without us knowing all of the facts,
Yeah.
even by the end of it, he only implies things. He doesn't blurt out his entire backstory.
There is some.
No, I can see that.
There are some parallels, but again, I mean, I'm not saying at all that's your template. But what I am saying is, I think we need to learn about / fall in love with John through that interaction, where we learn and fall in love with. I don't know, whoever that guy from Game of Thrones was.
Yeah. And then we will move on. Just one little tiny note too, I remembered, which is completely unrelated. With the lieutenant, when it was like the Quash joke,
yes,
you landed the Quash like, oh, Quash, let's go quash some knuckleheads. And then he said it again.
I had that too. Yeah, especially because it's your title. I think it's just
right. So you nailed it.
Okay.
You didn't need to circle back around and nail it again.
Okay,
because
cool.
it devalued the initial nailing.
It's really exciting work. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It was good. Thanks for the input. A lot of it makes a lot of sense, and I can see. And
well, we're not finished yet. We're going to let other people comment before you get into your speaking. So, anybody have any additional thoughts? Yes, I see a hand in the back there.
Hi. I thought you did a fantastic job of establishing setting, scenery, the scene, the feel of the tone, as well as who these characters are, especially through nonverbal choices, like it's pointed out, you know, snapping the tag off his shirt. What was an obstacle for me was figuring out exactly what it was they were on their way to do. And I feel like there might be a shorthand here for context for like something closer to a procedural of the cops are going to investigate so-and-so, or this person jumped bail, or something that is not present for this. And I wondered if the civilians in the van, if talking about the mundanities of the job, or complaining about how, you know, that one weird case or something, to either establish expectations or say, well, relax, this will never happen, that'll never happen, because it took me a long time to sort out what it was they were on their way to do. And catching up to that, I think, got in the way of getting into the rhythm of the rest of the scene, and then like, oh, okay, you know, setting up those expectations so they can either be met or subverted.
Okay, thank you. I suppose you can build that idea that there is danger involved, probably a little bit more maybe. I think that's, because when she said, I'll go, when Erica said, I'll go, and they were looking at one another, I suppose that they didn't land perhaps as strongly as we could, because we were like, oh, holy fuck, she's going into a war zone.
Yeah.
We didn't really grasp that. Yes?
I actually got what was going on. I mean, the cops were going to use them to try and get the guy out. So I got that. What I wanted was, do they do this all the time? Are they okay with this? Are they, right, what is the level of danger, and do they just not care because they're not aware of the danger, or there is no danger, or they're just adrenaline junkies? I guess what I really want to know is this the first time the cops are doing this, and so they're like, oh, or is this like literally a daily routine with them that the cops are always using them, and they're just like, this is part of the gig?
Yeah. Well, yeah. To answer that, yeah, I try to get that across. It was brand new, the new net thing, and which is what it was and what it was based on. And cops didn't know what they were doing. Building department didn't know what they were doing, and they put these brand new people into harm's way. And that was the world that it starts. And as we go through it, it gets a little bit more organized, but still incredibly chaotic. So
is this really happening? This is a thing.
Yeah, it's really happening.
Crazy. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think I had a hard time understanding what the expectations were, so then I didn't know what was unusual. Like, when people would react to John, I didn't know if he was behaving the way he was supposed to in the situation or not, because I didn't fully understand. And I think maybe one thing that would have helped kind of improve some of the pacing or the connection through especially like the van scenes and stuff would be maybe a clearer sense of what everybody wants and what they care about and what they think is about to happen. And I think that may have given you, because for me the pacing sometimes felt a little slow, and I think it was just because some of the scenes felt a little unmotivated. Like I was kind of like, why am I watching this right now? What's happening? And so maybe just a clearer sense of like what they're expecting or what they want out of something would have given that clearer sense of who they are and what the expectations are, so then they can be subverted or met later.
Very good. All right. We'll take one more and then we'll move on. Yes, sir.
I got it all the way through. I loved it. I was there with the characters, and I think visualizing it on the screen, I think that the moments would happen and organically and they could play out. The thing that I wanted more of was Jesus. I think that piggybacking off of what Kit was saying is a lot of what we learn or what we will learn about John will actually come up with what's happening with Jesus and how he's dealing with this situation. I think it even ties into the danger that everyone's talking about. This guy lives in a very chaotic world. He's got a gun. He's got his fence up so nobody can see what's happening. He's got a kid in his hand with a gun. Now the helicopters are coming, and he's not really flinching. He just decides to put his gun down. I think whatever's happening with him, both his emotional life and that could almost be surprising as well. I feel like I don't want to pitch anything, but that's kind of what I wanted more from him, and I think that could just turn into revealing a lot more about John's character.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's a great point.
And I wanted more jokes. I wanted more jokes.
More jokes?
Yeah, more jokes. Okay, and do you have anything else that you now you can have your little speak?
No, I really appreciate all the feedback. It's great having the actors do it, and then you can see, because as you're writing it and you're trying to put those little things that creating mood, you gotta, you always say trust the actors. It's just amazing the stuff you guys do as far as reading those and knowing what to do. I didn't have to add that stuff, and it slows down. It slows it down. So that's a great learning lesson for me there. The point about the Jesus thing really becomes apparent at this thing, and I just see how to go ahead and swap it. I'm gonna trim up the front, and I could add that back and really get into a lot of stuff, and really have a lot of the exposition that I'm getting out in the front can come out in that moment, and then you're gonna care for John a lot more too. So I really appreciate it. Appreciate it.
John McConaughey.